Alright, today we're going to talk about the Gen II Vortex PST. This one is in a 5 to 25 by 50 MOA reticle, first focal plane. I'm not going to go over the specs. You guys can look at that on the website. We'll start by telling you, I guess, what is important to me in a scope. All my rifles are set up for the ability to shoot longer range, and I'm kind of gravitating towards trying to find the lightest setup that will work with that. Obviously, we all know that the heavier it is, the easier it is to shoot, but I don't like carrying all that extra weight into the backcountry, or anytime I get a couple miles away from the truck for that matter. So I'm trying to find a good balance for accuracy and lightweight. I'm experimenting with the Christensen Arm Ridgeline set up in stocky stock. But having said that, I'm currently running Citron S3 LRMOAs on my rifles, using the 8 to 32 by 56 models. The things that are gonna maybe make me want to get away from that scope would be I really would like to have more revolutions or more minutes per revolution, and I would also like to have a zero stop. Now, with the zero stop, the revs, the minutes per rev aren't going to be such a big deal, but with no zero stop, I haven't had it happen yet, but I'm afraid sometime I'm going to get above 1 rev and forget exactly where I am. And I knew that they do have marks down here, but they started at 2, I think, and it just could be confusing. Again, I've never had it happen, but I would kind of like to have a zero stop. And I haven't used a first focal plane scope before, but the idea of it sounds way more appealing to me than a second focal plane scope, which is what that 8 to 32 Citron is. They don't make a first focal plane in that magnification. So if I can find the right balance with a first focal plane, more minutes per rev, and the first focal plane, I could be persuaded to leave the Citron. The other thing I do like about it is it's got very good tactile feel to the turrets. And the only scope I've actually found that I like better than it'd be the higher end Swarovski long range hunting scopes. The turrets on the click, the tactile feel of the Citrons are far better than anything else I've used. Another one might be close would be the Gen I PSTs, but they're better than the Night Force. I know that's probably going to get a lot of people shaking their heads or laughing, whatever. They're a lot better than the Night Force. I'm not going to get into durability and that kind of thing. I've never had any issue. My Citrons track well. They always return to 0. I don't make a habit of beating my scopes up, so I don't really have any good feel for how they're going to hold up to that, and I don't intend to test them. Just based on the specs here, the things I'm going to struggle with is it's a 5 to 25 power scope. Like I said, I would like to have the more magnification. A 32 would be great. They don't make one from Vortex. And I would like the extra light gathering capabilities of a 56mm objective. This one's a 50mm objective, and this also does weigh 5 more ounces than my Citron S3s. And then obviously the biggest reason why I'm even looking at this scope is because it's got the 25 minutes per rev. It's got a true zero stop, not the cheap shim system that actually they worked, but this you can see it actually stops. So that's what we're going to be comparing down the road. Is obviously if it doesn't hold up mechanically, it's not going to work for me, but I don't anticipate that being a problem. So we're going to compare it next to the Citron S3 on a rifle set up pretty much the same, and see which one I like. So make sure the tracking capabilities are the same, and then see if I can get used to just carrying it. Obviously, the weight issue is probably going to be more of a long-term situation, but see if I can get used to shooting out real long range with 25 versus a 32 power. See if I fall in love with the zero stop and the 25 minutes per rev. That might take up some of the slack with the 25 power and the fact that it's 5 ounces heavier. Right off the bat, one of the things I do like about this scope is the turrets have a right and a left, as opposed to just going one way from 0 to 15 or 0 to 25, which is worthless on an exposed turret windage setup. I don't know why anyone thought that was a good idea. On my Cytrons, I do have some custom labels made by a company that I plan on doing a review on later. It's going to be a real short, quick review because there's not a lot to them. But just basically, that's what is important to me in a scope. So we'll go ahead and take a look a little bit closer at some of the turrets, and we'll take a look at the zero stop, and then that'll be the end of this introductory to the scope. General feel or thoughts about the scope, and then we'll have to follow up later after I get some shots down range with it and go from there. So here we go. Alright, we'll give you a little bit of a close-up of the elevation turret here. As I said, it is a 0 to 25 minute. I don't know what the mil is. You can look at that on the website. I'm not interested, have zero interest in a mil setup. It is a hard stop, internally set. We'll take a look at that here in a second. It's not the old shim style. The clicks, like I said in the introductory, aren't quite as nice as the S3 from Cytron. They're not quite as nice, I don't think, as the Gen 1 PST as far as how they feel. I've read a couple people that had these on the internet that disagreed with that. I don't know what to say. They're definitely not as tactile feeling as the first ones. I don't think these are going to move accidentally, but they just aren't as pronounced as the previous model, and definitely not as pronounced as the S3. I would say these are on par with the Night Force NXS series that I've had my hands on. I would imagine that most of it has to do with the fact that it's got 25 minutes per rev. The detents are probably smaller inside, allowing, or I guess not allowing it to feel quite as strong. This one does feel a little bit better than the elevation, so some of it may have to do with the zero stop itself. Like I said, I do like the fact that it's got the right going this way and left going this way. When you're trying to set up for a shot, especially a longer range shot where you're actually going to be using the turrets of the scope, you've got other things like wind calls, distance, going through your shot motions, getting the rifle set up, making sure your breathing's under control, your adrenaline's under control, so you're going to make a good ethical shot. The last thing you want to be doing is trying to subtract numbers and trying to figure out exactly what windage you need to dial. There's no question here. If you need a right 3, you go to right 3. If you need a left 2, you go to left 2. It's quick and easy. This is what all turrets should be. Again, inside with the first focal plane, it's going to be the same thing. It's always going to be a minute on the reticle. There's no thinking about whether or not you're on the correct power like you would have to do with a second focal plane scope. So let's go ahead and we'll take this off. We'll just take a real quick look at the zero stop. So when you get your load developed and you're trying to sight the scope in, zero the scope, you're going to take this off. And you're going to make sure this is turned all the way clockwise. Then you're going to loosen these 3 screws here. Once you loosen these 3 screws, you've disconnected this outer turret, the secondary turret versus the primary turret. It's not going to have the clicks anymore. So you're going to go ahead and zero the scope, It does have minutes marked here, so you know what you need to turn up, down, left, right, whatever you need to get the bullet impact where you want it, whether it be 100, 200, 300 yards, whatever your zero is going to be. Once you get that where you want it, you're going to go ahead and tighten these 3 set screws back down, and 10 inch-pounds is going to be the correct torque spec per Vortex, and so you'll get that tightened down. Make note of what your minute marks are here, and then you can go ahead and dial it up a little bit, turn it back down, make sure it stops, and you've got it set correctly, and it should stop exactly where you stopped it. Not a click less, not a click more. It should stop exactly where. If that doesn't happen, you may try it one more time. There are some procedures for resetting the zero stop if you need to. When I first got this scope, first pulled it out of the box, I had an issue with it. It just kept spinning and spinning and spinning. I called Vortex and walked through the reset procedure with them. It didn't do it. When you get that all set up, we'll put this outer turret back on. You know, get the zero where you, obviously just like you would in the past. Get it set on there. To wiggle it a little bit, it'll sit right on there, and then you'll just tighten these up just like you would in the past. And then the zero stop should be set. You should be able to dial all the, you know, however far up you need to, and it should come right back down. So out of the box, you know, just with it, playing with it here, I do think it's a great scope. I think you'd be happy with it. I really think it's probably going to be basically a Night Force in excess for, you know, half the price, if that's your kind of thing. Again, the Citron I think is probably my favorite scope, and I've been around a few and owned quite a few scopes. So for me, it's my gold standard. So we'll have to see if the features this adds will overcome the shortcomings, in my opinion. Alright, so here's a little bit closer look at the windage turret. Like I'm talking about, you can see the goes to the left, numbered, and it goes to the right, numbered. I can't see you getting back here as far as windage in minutes. If you do, then you're going to go back, I guess, to the old school and just start clicking extra windage. But there's, look at the windage turret. And then here's a look at the parallax adjust. Clear down to 25. And then we go all the way around to infinity. And like I said, it's very smooth and not a lot of effort to move it. And then, like I said earlier, they moved the illumination from over here to over here. The battery's under the cap right here, and it goes from 0 to 10 on the amount of illumination, and there are offs in the between. It is very stiff, so you're not going to accidentally turn on illumination. I've never had a desire to use illumination, but it's on the scope, so when I'm out shooting in the field, we'll take a look at that and see if I really think it adds any value. I've never been in a situation where I have needed illumination or felt I needed illumination. Okay, while we're talking about initial impressions of the scope, I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about something I hadn't anticipated having an experience with while I was doing the evaluation of this scope. When I first got it set up on this rifle and I went out to start doing load development, the rifle hadn't been shot yet. I wanted to make sure that I had a real firm understanding of the zero stop and that I would be able to operate it and figure it out before I actually needed to zero the rifle. And I could not get it to stop. Couldn't do it. Took this off, took it all apart, tried it multiple times on myself. I actually went on YouTube looking for a video. It looked a lot like the Razor HDs as far as the setup under there, and I could find one review on resetting it, or I guess making sure it was actually up against the zero stop internally. And I did that procedure, it didn't do any good. So the piece of this that I didn't really anticipate needing to use was the Vortex customer service. So I called them. They walked me through the same procedure that I had just done. It didn't do any good. So they, transferred me over to the lady that sent me an overnight shipping label. They got it in. They looked at it. I don't know what was wrong. They overnighted me a brand new scope. So I had a new scope within 2 shipping days. That was over a weekend, so obviously it was a couple days longer. But the piece of that is impressive to me, and maybe it doesn't matter to some people, but it's a huge deal to me. In the past, when I've had issues with outdoor industry products, they've always taken care of me. I can't recall a situation where they didn't stand behind their product and get me taken care of. But when I was talking to them, it seemed like it was status quo for them. That they had the attitude that things break, we apologize, but we'll get you taken care of. And I do know whenever it's a mechanical product and humans were involved in making it, things are going to go wrong from time to time. So it really wasn't that I was disappointed with any of those customer service issues, but the thing I think that set Vortex apart for me was some of those other companies might have taken a week, 2 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever. They took care of you, but you were kind of on your own there for a while, and some of those situations were pretty important to me. I needed the product. Hunting season was in full swing or just around the corner, and I didn't have the time to wait. When I called Vortex, you could tell they were genuinely embarrassed. They could not believe that I'd had a scope of theirs in my hand for that short amount of time, or for any time really for that matter, and it had an issue. They overnighted it back to them like I just said, and they overnighted it back to me with a brand new scope. I don't know what you could do better than what they did. In my opinion, there's nothing they could have done. I had the scope out of my hands for 2 business days. Now, I don't know if that's going to happen every time. I really can't say, but I have to say that I was very impressed with the turnaround time, and it meant something to me that it meant a big deal to them. That it wasn't just, things break, we'll take care of you. It was more of an attitude of our things aren't supposed to break, and we can't believe it broke, and we're going to get you taken care of. So I did have to take a minute to talk about that. Alright, so in summary, for this video, we took a look at some of the things I liked about this scope and didn't like this scope, just based on the first impressions and just getting my hands on it without any field experience. Again, comparing it to the Citron S3s that I prefer to run. The turrets aren't quite as nice as far as the feel. They're a little bit more mushy. I'd say they're on par with NXS's that I've had my hands on. They're a little bit better than the SHVs. I don't think they're quite as nice as far as the feeling as the Gen 1 PSTs, and they're definitely not as nice as the Citrons. Now, based on everything else other than the feel, the turrets are way better. 25 minutes per rev. It's got a 0 stop. It's got a 0 indicator on top. It's a fiber optic, so you can see it from here. Again, I don't like the fact that it only goes to 25 power, and a lot of people probably aren't going to go up to 32 power anyway, so a lot of people are probably going to be happy with this. I'm not real thrilled about the fact that it's a 50 versus a 56. We'll see if that matters later down the road. It is illuminated reticle. Never had the desire to have one before, but this has it. So we'll see what that's like as well. So leave any comments you've got down below. Give me any questions or anything you would like to know specifically about this, so that in the follow-up videos I can try to answer those questions while I'm actually playing with it out in the field, out shooting it, dialing up, dialing it down, checking the windage, looking at the first focal plane, looking at the reticle, seeing how that compares to the Citrons that I've got. And subscribe so you can see any future videos, and so I can keep producing the videos for you. Maybe suggestions on videos you'd like to see on other products, as far as hunting in the backcountry, hunting out west, public lands, do-it-yourself type stuff, any rifle stuff, scope stuff, and I'll see if I can help you out with those. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.